Hello everyone and welcome to Yahoo Gaming Southeast Asia CES 2022 Roundup. And today we have Richard Lai, Engadget Chinese Editor-in-Chief, together with us to discuss all the things that are going to go, that have already happened at CES, and also all the reveals and all the little interesting things that were talked about during the event itself. Welcome, Richard. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Dominic.
No problem. I guess we can go straight into it. So we'll probably start with the mobile section. I mean, like things like phones and mobile tablets and stuff like that. What do you have for us? I am not very familiar with this scene.
It's okay because actually CES usually isn't about smartphones or mobile gadgets, but for this year we've got Samsung, who decided to use this occasion to bring us a brand new smartphone, which is the Galaxy S21 FE. I don't know if you're familiar with the word FE, but it's actually short for, well, used to be short for Fans Edition or Fan Edition, and they actually started using that after the Galaxy Note 7. I don't know if you remember the one with the.
I've always like had this. I always noticed this FE thing, but I always thought it's like what, some Founders Edition or whatever. I never really knew.
Oh yeah, Founders Edition for graphics. Yeah. In this case, it means Fan Edition because they, after the Galaxy Note 7 battery fiasco, they wanted to recycle the remaining phones. So what they did was they brought them back in, and they somehow limited the batteries, or they replaced the batteries, and then re-released those recycled phones as a Fan Edition FE thing. And then since then, they kept that sub-brand for all the slightly cheaper versions of their flagships. In this case, this is a cheaper version of the Galaxy S21 flagship. And you can tell by the looks, it's very much like the actual S21 flagship, except the back cover is all plastic rather than using glass. And likewise for there's you see this camera island on the back. On the proper flagship, they have a metallic piece of whatever you want to call it. But in this case, on the FE, it's a single piece of plastic all over it. Now, plastic doesn't mean it's cheap or anything. It actually feels quite nice. I got to touch it yesterday because we've already launched it here in Hong Kong. And but in terms of specs, it's very much a flagship anyway. It's using the same Snapdragon 888 processor, which is the same as the proper flagships. You've got 8 gigabytes of RAM. You've got a Full HD Plus display, running at 120 hertz, so things go silky smooth, and it comes at a 6.4-inch size, and the battery is 4,500 milliamp hours, so that's plenty for a whole days of usage for most people anyway. Even the main camera is exactly the same as the S21, but it's a bit different for the ultra wide camera and the telephoto camera. But for those who like to taking selfies, there's still that punch hole camera on the front, and it has a much higher resolution here. So we're talking about 32 megapixels here. And the whole point of this FE, this edition, is that it's cheaper, right? So it's going for a bigger audience. So it with the 8 gigabytes of RAM and 120 gigabytes of storage, we're talking about around 900 Singaporean dollars.
And you can really cheap for a flagship.
Yeah, it's definitely cheaper than the proper flagship. And then you can also get an 8 gigabytes of RAM with 256 gigabytes of storage for an extra 70 Singaporean dollars. So we're talking about 970 Singaporean dollars. Yeah, and hopefully you guys will get to play with one as well. I'm sure it'll make their way to Southeast Asia.
Yeah, it's so rare these days to see like a flagship phone that is under 1,000 Singapore dollars.
That is very true.
Yeah, a lot of other phones is like it's all 4 digits. It's insane.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's below 1,000.
It's not quite like how Xiaomi first did their phones back in the days, but nowadays this is actually one of the cheaper phones in the market with that flagship level processor. So if you're looking to buy a flagship phone for your loved ones, but you have a limited budget, this may be worth considering. And I have to say, the purple color on this is quite nice. but you can only get the purple. At least in Hong Kong, you can only get the purple for the higher spec version. But still, that's relatively affordable.
Yeah, it is. It is. So okay, yeah. So that's is that the only phone that was available?
Yeah, strictly speaking, that was the only phone that actually got unveiled at CES. There were a few other companies that announced their phones during CES, but they were not physically at CES, nor those actual launches. They were more like, oh, here's the phone, here are the specs, but we're actually launching in elsewhere next week. Right, so they did not launch it at CES. So it was a bit cheeky. So yeah, I'm talking about the OnePlus 10 Pro, which didn't get launched until today in China, but they did show off all the specs anyway. And there was also something, Honor announced, well, they teased their first ever foldable phone. But again, that was announced yesterday, which was long after CES. Anyway, long story short, for me anyway, the only smartphone that got launched at CES was the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE.
Okay, great. What about the other things that were revealed? Stuff that are more user, like people that can bring
portable
around. Portable.
Okay. Yeah. So CES is always about companies like Intel and Nvidia and AMD. So I guess we can talk about those
they
later
have a
on.
chock full of news.
But, yeah. But whenever they announce their new CPUs or GPUs, you get a bunch of PC makers that announce new models, new laptops, new PCs that use these new components. For me, the one of the laptops that got my attention was the Asus Zenbook 17 Fold OLED. It's quite a mouthful, but I'm just going to call it the Zenbook Fold. And you can probably tell by the name, it's actually a foldable laptop, or you can call it a foldable tablet. So basically, you have a 17-inch OLED tablet, which you can fold in half. So it's think about 17. It's massive.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't the first foldable tablet. Last year, the previous CES, Lenovo announced a 13.3-inch foldable tablet, and when it was folded, it was actually kind of small and not quite practical. But with the Asus ZenBook 17 Fold, once it's folded, you basically get a kind of like a laptop shape with a 12.5-inch 3x2 screen, which is still quite usable. But definitely much more usable.
A 17-inch screen is actually pretty big already. So if you fold it, you probably turn into a mini laptop.
Yeah, but you can
something.
Or you can just stand up the whole 17-inch tablet, and it comes with a Bluetooth keyboard. So you can imagine basically staring at a 17-inch screen with a relatively small keyboard. It's kind of cute. But yeah, it's all about versatility, right? So it's how should I put it? They say there are 6 use cases. You've got a tent mode. Well, actually no, you can't fold it that way. But it comes with a kickstand, so you can use it as a massive 17-inch screen. You can fold it as a laptop. You can use it as a folded laptop with the virtual keyboard on the bottom, or you can put your Bluetooth keyboard on top of the bottom half. Or it's basically 6 modes. And then once it's folded, so it's actually quite chunky. It comes in at around 17.4 millimeters at its slimmest point. 17.4, so 1.7. Pretty thick for a laptop these days. But when unfolded, the tablet itself is only 8.7 millimeters thick. So that sounds about right. Yeah. I'm trying to look at the weight. It's so
actually 2 cm for a laptop is actually not that huge, to be frank. It's like 2 cm. I would gladly carry this.
Yeah. And in terms of weight, it comes in at 1.6 kilograms. So for a laptop, that's actually definitely okay at this size anyway. So yeah, and it's got it'll be powered by a 12th generation Intel Core i7 U series processor, and for obvious reasons, it doesn't come with one of those graphics card. Your cards, you only get
the integrated ones.
Iris Xe, if that's how you announce it. Yeah, the Intel one. And up to by the way, the screen resolution is basically 2.5K, 2560 by 1920. Yeah. So when you fold it, you still get 1920 by 1280, which is still pretty high.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not bad. Now the only question is we don't know when exactly it's going to launch this year, but it's definitely coming out this year. Okay. I think.
So did they show off a prototype at CES, or it was just?
They have working demos.
Right. Okay.
They have working demos. Oh, they say the hinge has been tested for you can fold it for over 30,000 times without deterioration. So that's like if you open and close it 10 times a day, you can still the hinge is still good for 8 years at least. Or so they say, right? These are lab tests. So
I'm pretty sure you will probably not open and close it that often anyway, because it's not like a phone. The Galaxy Fold, you probably
But you know what it's like. Like once you get a new piece of gadget, you want to show off to people. A bit like how I've been showing off my foldable phone, the new one from Oppo. So I've been doing this whole folding action. But anyway, this is the Zenbook 17 Fold OLED, and it's actually what I can tell you is it's the most viewed product during our CES coverage on Engadget Chinese. Yeah. So people are definitely fascinated by this new form factor. Well, relatively new form factor. There are only 2 products like this. One product on this market right now, and then this will be the second one, I guess, unless someone else suddenly throws us a surprise between now and then. Yeah,
I think this is actually quite a good step forward for the laptops and portables, because I mean the next step you can go is to have like a normal sized laptop, but the whole thing is screen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
One thing I just realized is they haven't announced the price yet, I think. But it's I mean the Lenovo one is not cheap. I'm trying to find the if I remember correctly, we're talking about 5,000 SGD. That was the Lenovo one, I think. Yeah, it's roughly around that price level.
That is really pricey,
I think. Yeah. Anyway, so speaking of Lenovo, that's the other laptop that I want to talk about. Lenovo in the past, they've tried fitting a second screen onto their laptops. One time they did like a slide out screen, so you could pull out a second screen on the top lid. So it's like an extendable monitor. That was many years ago. It was actually one of my first CES shows.
This year was supposed to be our first CES, but
really?
Things happened.
That's too bad. Well, better safe than sorry, you know.
Yes.
Do you guys do you need a quarantine when you come back from the US?
I think there's a 7-day.
Okay.
Yeah.
For us, it's 21 days. So no way for him.
Yeah.
Now, so this Lenovo one is, let me give you the name. It's the Thinkbook Plus Gen 3. So it's the 3rd generation Thinkbook Plus. And I guess the plus refers to the secondary screen here, which is placed on the right-hand side of the keyboard. And when I say screen, we're talking about an 8-inch tablet-like kind of screen. It's an LCD, and it looks like a massive trackpad, but you still have a proper trackpad just below the keyboard here. So what you can do with this secondary screen is you can use a stylus on it, or you can use it as just an extended screen, so you can drag any window down there. So maybe you want to keep playing a video or have a radio player down there, or you can use it to toggle any of the pre-made widgets offered by Lenovo. Maybe it's a memo pad thing, maybe it's a calculator, currency converter, things like that. There are some software apps that will be supported by this extra screen. One of them is Adobe Lightroom. So apparently there's some sort of optimization. Now, because of this wider body, the screen is also the main screen is also much wider as well. I think it's like, it's like 16 by 9, something like that. It's a super wide screen. Yeah, so it's kind of funky. I think.
Yeah, so the aspect ratio is 31:10.
Yeah,
that is.
So yeah, that's that main screen is 17.3-inch IPS screen with a 3K resolution. Yep. And everything else, I think in terms of CPU, of course, it's running a 12th generation Intel Core processor. You get up to 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM, and for some bizarre reason, it's only using an Intel Xe graphics rather than.
Technically, you wouldn't really need an extensive memory, like a graphics card for it to run well.
But I don't know, because first of all, you are running two screens at the same time. And secondly, I would have thought this kind of laptop would be targeting the heavy graphics users.
Oh yeah, because you also probably need to you will probably use it for video editing, because it's so easy to maneuver around and photo editing. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. But if you look at the price, maybe it kind of makes sense. These are launching in May this year, and they'll start at around $1,400. So that's actually not too bad.
Yeah.
For a laptop like this.
For it to come with 32 gigs of RAM.
Up to not
it's up to
up to. That would be too cheap. Yeah. So it's I think Lenovo is trying something quite daring here. Although then again, I'm not exactly sure what the exact specs are at this price point, but it's a good start.
It's a good start. I mean, the main selling point for it is probably the screen on the side.
Yeah, I mean, this obviously isn't the first laptop with this kind of form factor or use case, because we've already had the Asus Zephyrus Duo and Zenbook Duo, and they place a very wide and narrow banner-like second screen just above the keyboard. So maybe some people would prefer that, and maybe some people would prefer Lenovo's implementation. But I can imagine me personally preferring the Asus way, because for video editing, I could place my various tools like from Adobe Premiere Pro into that secondary screen, because it's such a wide bar. That's where you would naturally place your timeline or other tools there. But with this one, I guess I'm sure there's a use case there, but it's probably not for me.
I guess it's slightly more ergonomic because you can write stuff and type.
But is it ergonomic though? Because the keyboard is offset. I can already imagine like the gamers would be like, "What the hell?" You know, because you know what they're like. If your trackpad is like off center, they'll be like, "What?"
Yeah, because it's all right over here. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's a weird device. Yeah, and whenever you're typing, you are always off center here.
Yes, actually, you gotta really type it like this.
So yeah, the more I think about it, the more afraid I am. Anyway, we'll see. Maybe it'll sell like hotcakes. I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah. But anyway, in terms of portable gadgets from CES, these are the main ones, the main highlights for me. Yep.
And I guess, like what you said earlier, the major part of CES is basically all of the PC parts.
Yeah.
And so there were a couple of exciting reveals and also unnecessary reveals. So just start with the graphics cards first. Nvidia and AMD revealed their lowest end graphics card, the RTX 3050 and also the AMD 6500 XT. For the Nvidia side, I guess the RTX 3050 is a pretty welcome addition, because for the other graphics cards that are in the market, you can never find them because it's always sold out everywhere. The chip shortage is such a huge thing right now that, like, how a GPU works is that people they make the chip, And so to create like all the smaller, the lesser graphics cards, they actually slice the chip up to fit it into more other lower ends. So the fact that they are concentrating on the 3050, which means they have enough yields to go around for the 3050. I guess it's great for people who need the graphics card, because a lot of people are trying to get new PCs in this day and age because COVID and stuff. I've seen so many friends that have a PC but without a graphics card, because they either can't buy them or the price is just way too high.
But they built these are new PCs the
new PCs. Because
what's the point?
Because the thing is, right, when COVID hit, everyone started going from work from home and stuff like that. And then and because they're so stuck at home, some of them, they don't have laptops. So they're like, okay, I'll build PCs and stuff. And because COVID just hit at that point where the chip shortages just started, they just built PCs without a graphics card. So they got to either use their integrated graphics card that comes with a CPU, and they pay crazy prices for all the graphics cards that were in the market, even the older ones, because the shortage was real. Demand went up, and the older graphics cards were all so expensive.
Right.
And then
oh man, that kind of defeats the purpose then. So they're just waiting out for the next availability.
Yeah. So they were. It came to a point where if the price to performance ratio of the newer cards didn't make any sense. So like previous gen, okay, you pay $1,000 for a 2080, but right now you're paying $1,000 for a 3060, which is slightly less powerful than the previous gen 2080.
Yeah.
So the price to performance ratio is definitely not there. So it is right now for a 3050 to come out for $249. I still don't know the Singapore pricing yet because they haven't released it.
You know, these recommended retail prices mean nothing.
Yeah.
They mean nothing.
It
because
is.
We've seen it, like recent history has shown that the final retail price would just end up being 2 or 3 times at least of the original recommended price. So, but obviously these will still be cheaper than the much higher end graphics cards. So you reckon these would maybe solve your friend's problems, right?
Yeah, because if people just need a graphics card for their monitors to function just to play basic games, then it's fine.
Well, I'm just curious because the whole one of the main reasons of the current shortage is because they don't have enough manufacturing capabilities.
Not enough manufacturing capabilities, and also that the higher end, like what I said just now, because they had the yields for the graphics card. A lot of times it is not a perfect yield, so they gotta cut it down.
Yeah.
And so the upper end technically suffers because you don't have a good enough yield for the upper end. So the upper end is running out of stock. And then you have the prices, you have the stuff like the 3070s or the 3060s, are also not very, because the demand is so high for them, the prices still go up anyway. Yeah.
Oh well.
So
hopefully
because of this, all the extra yields that they can put, like how much they can cut and put into all the 3050s, hopefully there's enough to go around without them jacking up the price so much.
Yeah. And Nvidia is saying that the RTX 3050 can play the latest ray traced games at over 60 frames per second. What do you think?
I take this with a pinch of salt, because ray tracing is seriously not a selling point for the 3050, even for the 3060 or the 3070. I mean 3070 maybe, because ray tracing takes up so much resources from the graphics card that your game runs at 120 FPS. You just turn ray tracing on, it drops to 40. Or even maybe with the 30 series it drops to 60. The RTX 3050, if you're going to play at 1080p, when you turn ray tracing on, it's just going to tank the FPS so much. And then you got to use their upscaling technology, which is the DLSS, to bring it back up.
Yeah. Maybe that's how they do it. Maybe they're saying you have to use a lower resolution, and then by way of DLSS, you can achieve this 60 frames per second ray tracing.
Yeah. So I mean, if you really want to experience the RTX ray tracing, I can safely say that it's a nice to have, but once you look at it for like 1 hour, you're like, I rather have high frame.
You don't really notice it, right?
Yeah, you don't really notice it, and you rather have high frame rates if you're really playing a game to enjoy the experience. You know what I mean? And the thing is with Nvidia graphics cards, if for it to run smoothly, you need to have like a G-Sync capable monitor.
True.
And when you need a G-Sync capable monitor, you gotta pay slightly extra for it half the time.
Really? Oh, I thought okay.
So if you compare like a normal 120 hertz monitor and the one with a G-Sync capable or is G-Sync compatible, generally you will find that the one without any kind of capabilities is about $50 to $100 cheaper.
Well, I think most of the monitors I see on the market, at least here in Hong Kong, they all do G-Sync anyway. So I've never really noticed the premium, if any. Okay.
I think because these days a lot of the monitors come with it by default. So the lower end monitors are the ones that are getting phased out are all not. they don't have it. They don't have the chips. Are all getting phased out.
I see.
So I guess the upcoming monitors is default G-Sync enabled. So I mean, even then, if you have like an old monitor that doesn't have like a FreeSync chip or a G-Sync chip, then
well, it's time to when you upgrade, you got to upgrade everything.
Yes,
the whole rig. Yeah,
it's pretty. But the thing is, right, to upgrade in this day and age,
it's expensive.
No man, not now.
Yeah.
So along the lines of the RTX 3050, we also have the Radeon 6500 XT from AMD, which is technically a competitor to the 3050, but so the 3050 comes with 8 gigabytes of graphics memory.
Okay.
But the 6500 XT comes with 4 gigabytes of graphics memory. So it's like cut in half when it comes to graphics memory. But I think it might also help with stocks, because for the Nvidia cards, a lot of miners buy them because of the large memory space. Because stuff like Ethereum and all that, when it comes to mining, it requires a lot of processing on the RAM. It loses a lot of graphics memory.
Yeah.
To like have like the hash rates up and all that stuff. And anything that is below, I think it's 6. Was it 6 or 8? If anything below 6 or 8 has terrible hash rates for mining.
But don't the manufacturers limit the hash rate anyway? I know you can. They eventually find a way to hack them, or they flash the firmware of a different graphics card and they end up having a full hash rate.
So you just need someone who's really smart. They get this one with a low hash rate, and you just give them like a month, they will somehow crack the code. So it just it runs out of stock anyway.
I'm sure most people would agree with me, but which is we just want to play games.
Yes.
Just stop buying up all the graphics cards, all right?
Yeah.
You guys make enough money already, or trying to make it. We just want to play games. Play high quality games.
But then again, it's not the miners' fault, is it? If they can use this equipment to make money, wouldn't you? Like if you can buy if this stack of graphics card can make you money, and you get the capital back and you can make money out of it.
So do you have friends who are doing this?
Actually, I do.
Yeah, I know. Let me tell you my case. I know some people who tried this, but we're talking about a few years ago. That was at the when cryptocurrency was still at its early stage, relatively early anyway. But in the end, they gave up. it just, you need to have a certain scale in order to break even, and they were not breaking even, so they just took everything apart and gave up. So what about your friend?
I guess now these days, because the prices of the coins that they mine are already so high, so they need to put out a lot of capital at one go.
Sure.
But when they make it back as fast because of such a big amount.
But how many machines are they? How many cards? How many cards are they hoarding?
Actually, my friends are all casual miners, so they don't have more. Like they don't have like a grid with like 10 graphics
casual
cards.
miners. So I wonder, are they breaking even? That's the question.
I think some of them have broke even.
Okay,
Some of them have broke even. But then again, they have like what 4 or 5 at max. But even then,
I don't know. I thought you'd need like at least 10 or 20. I don't know. But anyway,
I'm not skilled with this anyway. But I understand the rationale of using them as a money making tool. You know what I mean?
I just think they are part of the problem.
They are. It is because you are using these graphics cards. First thing you devoid people of buying them for like a personal use, and also another thing, because it uses so much power. I don't understand how they can maintain their electricity bill.
Exactly.
And also, it technically it helps with the destroying the environment thing, because you're using so much of energy.
Yep. Back in the days when you detect like a sudden heat surge coming out of a certain apartment, you'd think they're growing weed or something. Now it's like
cryptocurrency mining.
Yeah. What an interesting time we're living in.
Okay, so anyway, so coming back to the graphics cards, anything that were below like 8 or 6 gigabytes of memory space is absolutely useless for mining, which is why the old 1050 from Nvidia they weren't preferable for miners, so you could find them in abundance. It wasn't, the price wasn't jacked up at all during like the whole GPU craze. You can actually find it for like very cheap, 200 300, and you can just plug it in your PC. So the thing with AMD is that because it's 4 gigabytes of memory, it is highly unlikely that people would actually purchase it for mining. So which
could be a good thing.
Yeah, could be a good thing for AMD, and maybe you will have more stocks out there as opposed to the 3050. But the other downside is that games these days takes up so much graphics memory. Even the other day I was pretty surprised. I was playing Halo Infinite. I turned everything down to like low, just to get the FPS, and I was just testing a few other things. It already sucked up like 6 gigabytes of memory, but this is on 1440p. I would assume that 1080 will probably drop on about 4, but even then, if you do that on 6500 XT, it's probably going to fill up everything already. I mean, if that's talking about like a AAA title.
Wow.
So it might be something that I
think people who will buy this graphics card won't be playing Halo Infinite anyway. They would go for the much higher end graphics cards anyway. So yeah, it's fine. I mean,
if you are thinking about buying a 6500 XT, just make sure that your games don't need more than 4 gigabytes of memory. That's all I'm saying. So great for AMD, great for Nvidia for trying to put out with all the lower end graphics cards, and hopefully the cards will fill up the market soon, and people who actually need the graphics cards will actually get their hands on one. And speaking of that, for some reason, like, you know what I was mentioning about yields and stuff like that, and they can't get any higher yields. For some reason, Nvidia is able to release an RTX 3090 Ti. I have no idea what the purpose of that graphics card is. They already have like their 3090 SKU that they can continue putting out.
I mean, to be fair, they only teased it at CES. They didn't officially announce. They didn't give a date. They didn't say the prices, even though the prices never mean anything, as I said. The RTX 3090 Ti. They mentioned some basic specs, like it'll run at 21 gigabits per second. It'll have 24 gigabytes of GDDR6X memory.
Yes, which is also actually technically the 3090 has it, but this one is spec'd a little bit higher. The 3090 is running at 19.5 gigabytes per second. The 3090 Ti increased it to 21 gigabytes per second.
21, yeah. Okay. So they at CES they were mainly just sharing these basic numbers just to let us know how much more powerful it is compared to the original 3090. But yeah, I'm sure many people had the same reaction as you, which is like, what? They can't even make enough 3090s, and now they're talking about 3090 Ti. You know.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, you could use those chips to like make more 3080s. A lot of people are around. Actually, there's something, I think EVGA USA does it, that they have like a waiting list for people who want the 3080s. And the list apparently is still very long, and people have been waiting like months and months for it. And the 3090 chip, you could repurpose it, cut it down, and make more 3080s to go out to the consumers. But I guess because the 3090 Ti, right, it's the chip itself is enabled to like the maximum of the 30 series, the Ampere, their GA102 chip. It's like the most powerful it can be. So I guess they don't want to waste the yields that they have. That's why they chuck it in the 3090. But at the same time, it's a flex. At the same time, it's also like, for the consumers, it's like, what do I get out of this? I've been waiting for so long. So yeah.
Hey, you know what? Since you mentioned EVGA, remember last October when a whole bunch of there's a whole truck full of the EVGA graphics cards that got stolen?
Yes.
I don't know if you were aware of that.
I heard about it.
Yeah. Earlier today, there was a news article saying a bunch of those turned up in Vietnam. Like there was shops selling them, and when when they registered the serial numbers, they were told that was a stolen card.
So they stole the cards and then they shipped it to Vietnam to sell at retailers. It wasn't even black market; it was retailers.
I mean, maybe. I mean, they didn't know until the users registered the serial numbers, and then EVGA told them that, hey, these are stolen.
Oh man.
Yeah. Oh dear. But yeah, it's just funny. Yeah, just thought I'd share this with you. Anyway,
a whole bunch of people got their hands on the 3080, so I guess.
Yeah. But when people tried to register these graphics cards with EVGA, they could not, because the cards were on a banned list.
Oh, because it was stolen.
Because they were So the whole bunch of all the serial numbers from the stolen lots were banned. Oh well.
Okay. Yep. Oh well.
Yeah. Okay. So don't buy your cards from dodgy sources, people.
Very true. So I guess that's it for the graphics cards. Oh, also actually Intel also put out a few of their graphics cards, their new graphics cards, but it was only to OEMs. So there is still no word of any consumer graphics cards yet. But there are partners with Intel that I think is Acer, Asus and all that, for all their pre-builds will eventually contain some form of Intel GPU. So I think on the pre-build section that might help as well for users and stuff like that. So we'll probably see something from Intel soon for the consumers if this thing goes well with the pre-builds. So so graphics cards aside, CPUs as well. Nothing much from Intel around this time around, but actually of the reveal of the 12900 HK, the 12900 HK, which is a mobile processor. That's for the laptops. So Intel has always had these SKUs where there's the H, then the HKs. The HKs are the overclockable, super high-end ones for the laptops. And then the H is just a high-end. So the 12900 HK, 12900H. All of these are going into the new and upcoming laptops that were revealed at CES, and also the things that are coming out soon. So we will talk about the laptops later, but I guess the other CPUs that are really groundbreaking in a sense is from AMD.
Well, actually, before we move on, the Intel did show off the 12th Gen KS series chip, which will reach 5.5 gigahertz on a single core. That's the desktop.
So the KS, do you know what the KS chips are?
I was hoping you'd shed some light.
Yeah. So the KS chips, the reason why I don't want to talk about it, not the one, I mean like it's pointless because the KS chips is basically binned K chips. So they take the best of the K chips and then they overclock it. It's like, oh, this can reach this much. Put it in the KS SKUs.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they are selling it at a higher price, but they also are selling it at a guarantee that it can reach those clock speeds. But there are also chips that are out in the wild that are the normal case that if you're lucky enough, you can reach that speeds anyway without paying much for the case. So
it depends on how much they're going to price this, which they did not say at CES. So we'll find out.
Generally, it's about 200 300 USD more just for that extra bump.
Okay. I see. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Back to AMD.
Yes. AMD revealed the Ryzen 7 5800X 3D.
Yes.
So, just to put it into perspective, the normal Ryzen 7, the Ryzen 5000 series, it was released 1.5 years ago. Yeah, 1.5 years ago. No, actually, no, not even 1.5 years. 1 year, 2-3 months. But what the Ryzen 5000 series and also the previous AMD CPUs, what they do is that there is a CPU chiplet, and then there are cache chiplets around the CPU chiplet. What the 5800X 3D is that they managed to somehow stack the cache die onto each other. And because of that, the cache size for the 5800X 3D is up to 100 megabytes of cache size. It might sound small, but for cache size
that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Like for the 5950X, the level 3 cache plus the whole entire chip cache is about 74 megabytes. For the 5800X, it's about 100.
Yep.
And what the cache does, basically, for people who don't know, it stores data that can be fed to the CPU to process. So the more data you can store, the more things you can feed to the processor, and the more things can come out at the same time. So which means in the 5800X, they are touting it to beat their best gaming CPU, which is the 5900X, and also Intel's top end 12900K in gaming. They're touting it that it can beat them in.
They say, but 5% better performance in 1080p gaming, whatever that means. And that's right.
So the thing is with CPU testing is that you want to test it as the lowest resolution as possible, so the graphics card can feed as much frames to the CPU and see the CPU can take it. So that's why they tested it in 1080p. And the fact that it actually beat the 5900X is actually really very good already. I'm getting like a very high FPS. I'm personally using a 5950X. I'm getting really high FPS in a lot of different games, and the fact that the 5800X can do that, it's pretty insane.
Okay.
The fact that
it
can stack the cache and to churn out more frames and to even beat Intel's next gen, it's current gen, the 12th gen processors. And this is
it's a Ryzen 7 beating a Ryzen 9 here.
Yeah.
I mean, very interesting.
It's very interesting. And the fact that it also beats a next gen processor while still being in the previous gen. So there is also a pretty big thing. But yeah, I was about to say that I think there's a big reason why there is no 5900 3D or 5950X 3D. On the AMD chips itself, it gets extremely hot.
Oh,
Even like on the base on like my 5950X, I'm putting it on water cooling. It still reaches like 80 degrees on
yikes.
even when I'm doing like normal work and stuff like that.
That's not good.
When you point a heat gun at them, you can see that the cache also lights up. So which means the cache also takes up a lot of. It also emits a lot of heat. And when the 5950 and the 5900X is already that hot, if you were to stack the cache on top of that as well, it is going to be extremely heaty. So I think that is why they probably I don't think the 5900X 3D or the 5950X 3D is going to come out. Period.
Well, they say the 5800 X3D will be available later this spring.
Yes. So hopefully I get sent to test because I've been testing so many CPUs lately. Hopefully it gets sent to me. I can test and see whether my theory is true, whether it is actually really hot. And also, it actually has a lower clock speed than the original 5800X.
Okay.
Yeah, that somewhat fuels my suspicion as well.
Yeah, that's one way of solving the problem.
Yeah. And also, so that's one thing with AMD. And they also teased the Ryzen 7000 CPUs, which is their next gen processor that is going to fight with Intel.
Yep.
So they are going to a new socket. They are not using the AM4 socket anymore. So if
AM5 now.
Yeah, AM5. So you have AM4. Your Ryzen 5000 is as the maximum you can go. It is also using an LGA socket. If you are not familiar with the LGA socket, is that if you have a Ryzen processor right now, you'll notice that the pins are all on the CPU. But the LGA socket, the pins are on the motherboard instead. Which is actually a safer option because on the CPU you just need one bend pin. Everything goes haywire. You can't if you don't know how to bend it back, your CPU is null and void. And if you are to do that on a $1,000 CPU, that's it, man. So it is better to have the pins on the board, and at least the CPU, I wouldn't say you don't need to take care of it, but you probably wouldn't narrow the problem to the CPU. If when you build a PC and you cannot boot your stuff up. So so that's that. And also why it's called the Ryzen 7000 series is because the 6000 line is actually reserved for their laptops, their laptop processors, their EPUs. So, the Ryzen 5000 series, they took all of that and they made it the Ryzen 6000 to put into laptops. So basically you have your normal 8 cores, 16 threads and all that stuff. They're basically taking the whole architecture of the Ryzen 5000 series and putting it into laptop chips.
I see.
So that's that. It's pretty straightforward.
Yep. And apparently during CES, Lisa Su's the CEO of AMD showed off Halo Infinite running smoothly on a Zen 4 chip, and every core was running at 5 gigahertz.
See, that's what she says.
That's what she says. Yeah.
The thing is, right? To be perfectly honest, when I saw that clip, I was like, "Oh, okay, great," but there were no numbers.
Yeah,
there were no numbers on the screen. Nothing.
They never.
I could show my Xbox and call it like it's running on some form. But yeah, I apologize for being a skeptic, but
we should be. We should be actually skeptical.
I didn't see any numbers on the screen, so I like okay. So, but yeah,
there's only one way to find out.
She did say 5,000 gigahertz on running on all-core, but on an AMD CPU is actually really good.
Okay.
When it comes to what's the word for it? Okay, I can't. I totally forgot what the word is. But the way Intel and the way AMD processes data.
Yeah, hyper-threading.
No, not hyper-threading.
Something like that. Right?
IPC, the IPC speeds.
Oh, okay.
So the way Intel and AMD processes the data is very different. AMD uses a lot of cache, and if they have very high boost speeds, they can process. Let's say if it's 5 gigahertz and Intel 5 gigahertz, the AMD will beat the Intel hands down.
Okay.
When it comes to like core to core comparison, so that's what I mean by IPC. So let's say maybe a 4.5. This is just theoretical. 4.5 gigahertz is equivalent on AMD is equivalent to like a 5 gigahertz on Intel. So the fact that AMD is already at 5 gigahertz all core, which is what Intel is trying to do right now. And the fact that who knows if that 3D V cache thing is going to be on AMD as well. So if it's running at 5 gigahertz and it still has the 3D cache, it's just going to flatten the 12th gen, hands down. So it is actually a very big thing that AMD can hit 5.0.
So Intel should be very careful.
Yes, very careful, very worried. Hopefully, it's great for the consumer.
Oh yeah, sure. If they can keep up the production, that is.
Yes.
Oh dear.
CPU is not a problem.
Okay.
I don't think CPU is a problem because it eventually goes back out as the GPUs. That's the thing. Okay, so I guess I probably might want to skip the laptops because
yeah,
we're running out of time. But yeah, laptops, new Ryzen 6000 and 12th gen will be in the laptops. So the next thing we have is that we have something, the little funny things and the little interesting things that were revealed during CES and showed off during it as well. The first thing we want to talk about is the Razer Enki Pro Hypersense chair. So it is a gaming chair, but you can get haptic feedback from the games that you play. So much like a controller. I think much like their Kraken V3 as well, that has the haptic feedback. So now you can have it on your chair as well and feel things that are happening on in your game.
It's they partnered with a company called D-Box to add this haptics to the chair, and apparently it will already support over 2,000 games and movies and TV series. So I don't know what they mean by that. Like, is it all automatic or I can't imagine them.
Yeah, from the press release I saw, it feels like it's automatic. Like maybe through Razer Chroma, not Razer Chroma, their Synapse or something like that.
Okay.
I would assume that they would just put it through like your audio card or something, but it doesn't seem like it.
I don't know. But they specifically said games from the likes of Ubisoft and Microsoft, you're good to go. So, but I've never really used a haptic gaming chair. Have you?
No,
it's such a weird concept.
I mean, have you like sat in those like 4D roller coasters? Like it's in a cinema, but
in a cinema, yes. But you know what? Usually, you'd only feel those for the first 10 minutes, but after that, it feels like they just gave up. They didn't bother finishing off the entire movie. I don't know. That's my feedback whenever I try those at movies.
I guess Razer wants to emulate that feel to be more immersive in your game.
But Razer didn't say whether this is actually going to launch to the market. That's what they always do. They always launch these concept products, and some will materialize, some just won't disappear, like the toaster.
Yes, the toaster has
still vaporware alert.
One thing that I really wish it came true was the one that you can dock the Razer phone in.
Yeah, I was just looking at
that was such a great idea.
I forgot the name, but yeah. Well, first you got to keep on making a new phone.
Yes.
No more Razer phones.
Oh well.
At least they've got the mask, right? You've got the Cepher.
Yes.
Oh, hey. If I can. There we go.
Mine is
You've
still
got one
stuck in
too,
the
right?
box.
Oh no. Well, they got told off. Oh, I got it upside down. They got told off for saying it's got
It's N95 grade, yeah.
level. Yeah. Oh well. It's
So
good for showing off.
The Pro
Anyways.
apparently has a voice module inside as well.
Is yours the new one?
No.
The Pro?
The Pro
Okay.
hasn't been released yet.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, anyway, so that's Razer.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then there's a really cute one that I'd like to mention. So every year there's this Japanese company called Yukai Engineering.
Yes.
We actually know them quite well. They're based in Tokyo. Almost every CES they release something really, really cute. I think the year before they released something called the Kubo, Qoobo. It's a cushion, a circular round cushion with a cat tail. It's not a dumb cat tail; it's a robotic cat tail.
Yeah.
And they made it so that it would simulate a lifelike cat tail, and you can even touch it, stroke it, and it would respond like a real cat's tail. So very therapeutical. So they make therapy robots. Right. Now, for this CES 2022, they made something called the Amagami Ham Ham. I don't know exactly what it means because my Japanese is not good at all. But it's basically a little cute doll where you can put your finger into its mouth to get that nibbling sensation. And just to quote the company, it's designed to recreate the somewhat pleasing sensation that people get when human babies and pet animals softly bite on fingers. So
it's really, yeah.
you have to see the video. It's very cute, and even just by looking at a photo or at a GIF animation, I said to the CEO, "Oh my God, I really want one. I don't know why, but I just want it. I just want to stick my finger into that doll's mouth."
I'm sure it's very therapeutic to have.
It's like a natural human response, but yeah. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So they're going to release this at some point later this year. They have been, with the earlier cattail cushion, they have been working with elderly care centers. They've worked with hospitals. So there is a genuine use case here. It's not. I mean, you look at this and you think, "Oh my God, it's such a silly thing," but it's actually good for therapies.
It is, especially
for relieving stress, anxiety issues, etc. So that's why it's always one of my favorite moments at CES is to check out what Yukai Engineering is releasing. So yeah. Oh, and it comes with there are two. You get a cat or a dog. Apparently, I just found out.
Oh yeah, I'm reading the the Engadget article on it. So Amagami means soft biting.
Oh, right.
And ham means bite in Japanese.
Yeah. So they're going to launch a crowdfunding campaign in spring this year. So keep an eye out. Maybe you'd end up with a finger biting doll at some point later this year.
It's so cute.
Yeah. And another cool thing, which I spotted at CES this year, is from Samsung. Now, normally Samsung is all about home appliances and the new TV techs, new gaming monitors and things like that, and one new smartphone this year even. Now this time it's the thing that got my attention was a TV remote. It's called the Samsung Eco Remote, so you can tell by the name it's all about being eco-friendly and things like that. So in previous years, Samsung has released the solar cell remote, something like that. So it's basically a TV remote which you can recharge by
solar energy,
placing it under the sun, something like that. This time, it's basically an evolution from that. They've added a capability where it's able to harness energy from your Wi-Fi signal.
Right.
You're basically, as long as your home has a Wi-Fi signal, so you have a Wi-Fi router, then you're good to go. Your Eco Remote is constantly recharging itself using your Wi-Fi signal. I think this is a very groundbreaking tech.
Great. Yeah, so the thing, so it just gets the frequency from the router and then it just charges from there?
Yeah, it's true wireless energy, true wireless power. Because nowadays when you say wireless charging, you still have to place it on a
charger
mat,
or something, yeah.
which is not really it's wireless but not contactless. But here we are talking about contactless recharging. So, and Samsung says they're hoping to further eliminate the amount of waste batteries and waste remotes because they have this eco-friendly remote.
So the thing is that picked my brain was like, what if it is implemented in like a wireless mouse? My mouse will never run out of energy if that's the case.
But I'm sure your mouse uses much more power than a TV remote. I think that's how they're able to find this sweet spot where they can harness just enough energy from thin air to recharge something as efficient as a TV remote. So anyway, Samsung says this eco remote will come with all Samsung TVs launching this year. But I'm sure there's a catch to this. Maybe it only applies to certain regions, or maybe they say that when they mean you can pair this with a new TV with this eco remote if you buy separately. I don't know, but I it's all about what do you call it? ESG. It's like a environmentally friendly kind of thing that. Social responsibility kind of thing. And all these big companies, especially Samsung, are putting more effort into being environmentally responsible. So this is one of their big moves this year. And, it sounds very impressive. It's one of the highlights from CES this year, for sure.
It is, yeah. It is very impressive.
Yeah, that's right. Guess we only have a few minutes left.
Yes.
Shall we talk about the a bit of VR maybe very quickly?
Yeah.
There's the HTC Wrist Tracker. So it's a new accessory from HTC to go with their Vive Focus 3, which is their latest standalone VR headset. Now, the problem with VR normally is that the controllers tend to be bulky, relatively bulky anyway, because some of them have this big ring around them.
Yeah, you gotta keep on holding it.
A lot of times you end up banging yourself in the head because you forget that your headset is
that's a big giant thing too.
Yeah, exactly. And of course there's hand tracking, but hand tracking is only good when you're in a well-lit room, maybe. There are definitely limitations. But with this wrist tracker, it's able to let your headset track your arm from fingertips to elbow. Basically, your Focus 3's cameras can monitor the LEDs on this wrist tracker for standalone tracking. So you're actually getting basically 6 degrees of freedom tracking here. So it knows your true relative distance from the headset. And you can also attach this wrist tracker to any object. So it's not just a wrist tracker, it's an object tracker, really. So bad naming. I don't know why they call it a wrist tracker. It should be just called a mini tracker or something. Yeah. And even if you, because it's got built-in motion sensors, IMUs, even if you place it, when you wave it behind your headset, behind your headset's line of sight, it's still able to estimate your precision behind your head. So if you do like this kind of motion, placing your hands behind your back, it will still be able to get a rough estimation of your motion. So this should be able to somehow enhance the VR experience, especially for small businesses or even gaming arcades or schools. And training schools, especially because a lot of training schools are now using VR to do repair training or rescue training, things like that, which involve a lot of objects. And by placing something as simple as this onto an object, you're able to teach people how to use certain equipment for fire rescue or rescuing victims from a fire or accident, something like that.
Yeah, because previously all the other controllers you got to press a button to do the action, rather than have the visual of you picking it up.
Yeah. Oh, and also if you're wearing one of these trackers on both hands, then your headset can tell whether when you're crossing hands like in front of each other, it would know exactly which hand should be in front of the other, if you know what I mean. So the hands don't like merge together.
Yes.
So it's a minor announcement in the VR world. Because they already did the big announcement a few months back. So, but I figured I should mention this since we're talking about mainly gaming here. Now, speaking of gaming, one last product, and we'll do this very quickly. Samsung, they did announce a pretty cool gaming monitor. It's called the Odyssey Ark, and you can probably tell from the name, there's a very sharp curvature on this thing. It's not just an ordinary curved monitor. You can actually flip it by 90 degrees so that it wraps around you, like from top to bottom.
Yeah, because 55 is
55-inch 4K resolution, and you flip it by 90 degrees, you got this thing that curves all the way around you.
Yeah,
I don't know why you would need this, but maybe it's good for flight simulation. I don't know.
And it's also very easy to multitask. You have, because it's so big, if it's like this.
Why? No.
Why the thing is, right, when you know how like streamers, they have like their own personal monitor, then maybe they have like a side monitor, and then they have like a chat screen on top.
Yeah.
So maybe this might actually, you can do stuff on one side of the monitor, and you can actually just use it as a double screen, looking up as well, rather than just not.
But I don't know. But I don't think you would need a curved monitor for that. This is literally to give you that sensation where you're like inside a cave, and you have to look up a bit to see what's going on there. I don't think this is not for work. This is not for streaming. No way. This is more like, it would make sense as a flight simulator kind of thing. I don't know. I feel like I've seen plenty of these super ultra wide curved monitors, but when it comes to flight simulation or racing, all the graphics right on the extreme edges are all stretched out, and that kind of, for me, that I'm like, ugh, that kind of sucks. But if you can let me see, like if I look up and I still see like the sky or something like that, then that would be pretty cool. But anyway, I think at this stage it's still more of a concept kind of thing, because I don't think Samsung mentioned any dates or prices.
Or maybe just because they could do a 55-inch monitor, it's just like, here you go. Let's find a couple of users for it. And then they came up with the 32-inch curved monitor, and then they're like, oh, we can do a 55-inch. Maybe at CES we just have like a couple of users for it.
I tell you what, if they can make a big curved screen that's like 4x3 or something more square-like, that would make more sense. I don't want to have this super narrow, like super wide but narrow screen going around me. I want like the full coverage. I sound greedy, but I don't think I've seen anything like that.
Have you seen the G9?
G9,
the Samsung G9. It is the same thing as like the other Samsung G7. The G9, right? Is the 49-inch one that is narrow, but it goes all the way around.
Yeah, 1000R curvature. Yeah.
So it really just curves around you, and you sometimes, if you are sitting too close to it, you really don't know where to look, especially when you're playing games and stuff.
But you know, LG. Quick mention. LG actually released a very weird monitor. It's called a dual up monitor. It's a vertical screen with a 16x18 monitor. It's like a rectangle, almost like a square. Now, if they can use this, if they can apply this kind of aspect ratio with that kind of curvature, then I'm good to go. That's what we really need. The full immersiveness. With this, you can forget about VR. This is good enough.
So you split it into two, it resembles two 21-inch displays. Yeah, I would see it pretty good for work.
Then now this is for work. This is what streamers need. Yeah. So check it out. And this is a real product, I think. Yeah. I think. No prices yet, but no prices it looks like they're not going to launch it. Anyway, so yeah, that's CES 2022.
Longer than expected. I didn't expect this whole discussion to go like so long. I thought like, all right, half an hour show, great, no problems. I think it's holy crap, 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Oh dear. There's got to be some trimming to be done. But...
Sorry, editor. But yes, if you have been watching this from the start to the end, thank you so much for sticking around with us. We will probably, you can check Richard out at the Engadget. Anywhere else that we can find you on?
I'm on Twitter. I'm at Richard Lai, Richard Lai, and I'm on Instagram as well, Richard Lai HK.
Great, thanks Richard. And do stick around for more videos on our YouTube channel if you are interested in these kind of things. And you can also check out our Yahoo Gaming's Southeast Asia's topic page for more things on the esports and gaming that's happening around Southeast Asia. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.